Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Chaos Corner podcast. My name's Steve,
Yes. My name's Donovan.
and today we have a show with a guest for the first
Yes.
time. For the first time in quite a while, actually. We haven't had a guest on for a while. Why don't you tell him a little bit about our guest today, Donovan?
Well, our guest today, I'm going to let him speak for himself. However, he is a very talented musician from the West Midlands, from where we are, as you can
Yay!
tell by our accents. And he has been kind of blazing the trail across the Midlands and then further across nationally. He started out in a band that I was very fond of maybe 12, 13 years ago, and that's how they started. They very much started out at the same time as the Editors. Editors were from Birmingham and from
Yep.
like Northampton, and they used to tour together, I believe. And they both went in their separate directions. The Lines did a lot of their own touring, and then they did split up. But I believe they are all friends, so it wasn't it was an amicable split up. And Alex, he went off, put his own band together, and he's been gathering a very, very strong and growing kind of following, not just the Midlands, nationally, and now I believe he tours internationally as well. So it's just going to be nice to have a chat with him, get some ideas, pick his brains, because I know there's obviously budding musicians within the Dwellers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's going to be a pretty cool chat, to be fair, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Let's do this. So, who is the man that we have on today?
Today we have Alex Ohm.
And he is
everybody.
like magic.
I know. And until something goes wrong,
It just
or until
appeared.
my laptop turns itself off. And I,
You know what? Do you know what? That's a really good point, because I haven't charged my laptop and it's not plugged in at the moment. So that could be something to look out for.
Oy.
Oh,
Likewise.
No.
Oh, don't tell me that, guys. Come on. I'm plugged in. I've been plugged in for hours. Mine might explode because it's got too much charge. I was like real careful today.
It's always fun when we have a musical guest on, Alex, because me and Donovan are very
We're all
much into our
musicians, yeah.
music and ourselves, and there's a lot of people in the Chaos Corner group very, very, very much into the old music.
Yeah.
Tell us. Tell us. I was just going to say, if you was to give us a very short synopsis, if you could describe yourself and your sound in a few words, how would you do it?
A horrible question.
Oh, that is one of the most hard.
You know what? Okay, let's not do that. Let's go on to that, and let's maybe come to that naturally, because that is a horrendous question, Steve. To just go straight off into it.
It's hard, man. It's like, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me go like this. I do want to know that, but let's try and do it a little bit more subtle than maybe.
I like to just go with the hardball questions.
It's just a musical melting pot, really. That's all.
Okay, well, icebreaker. What we usually do as an icebreaker is we did let you know to have a little think about intros.
Yeah.
Because it's something that's just followed us since our first ever podcast, and it was an intro to Chaos Corner.
Yeah.
And we started talking about our favorite intros for songs, albums, and movies. Doesn't have to be a top three. We tried to kind of lock ourselves into a top three. That didn't really work. But have you been thinking about some intros that you really enjoy for songs and movies? Just throw some out there.
Yeah, I have. I mean, when you threw that sort of question over to me, something you don't think about a great deal, isn't it? And then when somebody asks you, it's like, oh man, like you got to try and
too many great ones.
Yeah. I mean, I think song-wise, you got the classics like I think like Bohemian Rhapsody is like an all-time classic. The four-piece harmonies going into the piano. But for me, I think the Cedar Room by Doves is probably one of my favourite starts, because you got that sort. Yeah, it's like sort of like a haunting sort of harmonica sound, and it goes into these like deep sort of dark bassy groove, and that for me, like when we used to go on tour with the Lines, that was one track we'd always put on, like when we were sort of starting off on the road sort of thing, and you just be sort of like sailing away down the motorway.
Get you going,
yeah. Also like the Daily Mail by Radiohead, and that's like
I like Radiohead.
Yeah,
it's that's well publicised.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like anything that they do, like I pretty much love. But I mean, the Daily Mail, it's like one of the later tracks that they released, and it starts off like on a sparse sort of piano, just piano, and yeah, I don't know, it just really hooked me in. And then like obviously you got Tom's voice over the top of it, and I love the contrast from the beginning of the song to the end of the song, and how it sort of just erupts into some crazy
it builds.
Sort of,
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Love that sort of.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. I love stuff like that. Uncle, Lonely Souls. That's a great intro as well. Just like it's like a really low sort of like bass, like sort of edited sort of bass riff that sort of just starts off, and then Richard Ashcroft's voice comes in over the top. Yeah, yeah, things like that. Love
cool,
it.
man. I'm noting these down. The ones that I don't know, I'm noting down.
Yeah, okay.
To have a listen to and share.
Yeah, films. I mean, that was a tough one because you forget. Like me, I love watching films, but I'm not like a film buff. Like some people know the ins and out of all films. But out of thinking, like I think films like Inglourious Bastards is a great first scene. You know, under the floorboards.
The Tarantino version. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
He's good at intro. No, Tarantino's good at intros, isn't he?
Yeah. It's pretty brutal as well.
Yeah, well, Tarantino.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. I'll tell you what film really got me, and I wasn't expecting it. Up. You know the film.
Yeah. No.
Oh, Matt, like, please. I mean, I watched that, and it was like it was so brutal because it was like, you know what, that's life, man, and
that's
like,
real life.
You make these memories, and the next thing you know, anything could happen.
The rug gets pulled from under you. And
yeah, man.
It's all gone. Yeah.
And it broke me, man. I was like,
it broke me too, brother. Stop talking about it.
Like,
do not find that kids' movies do that more though than most. You know,
they do it really
Disney
well.
Pixar are very good at
it. Was it Toy Story 3 when they're all in that like kiln thing and they're all holding hands and they're all just gonna die? And it's just like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah, Big Hero 6 was a good one for that as well. But that's more Big Hero 6, isn't it? Like, yeah, some good stuff, man. That's probably the one that really sort of like got me by surprise, to be honest.
Yeah, because it doesn't really mess. He doesn't mess around, does it? It kind of it gives you where the man is starting from.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't really mess around with it. Because here's the backstory, and you're there reeling. You're like, ah! And then like, this is why this guy is grumpy. You know?
Yeah, I was like, this is only like 20 minutes into this, and I'm done. I'm like,
I'm ruined already.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good film. It's a good film. Dark Knight's a great beginning as well. Heath Ledger as Joker. That's a good beginning.
That's a great beginning. That is actually.
Yeah.
Good job, man. Good work.
Cheers, man. You got me thinking. You got me thinking. Nice.
Yeah.
I think the point with the intro things was we was sort of saying, is there a film that ever comes on, or a song that comes on, and if it comes on, it don't matter what you're doing, you're gonna stop and either listen to it, or you're gonna watch the film. It don't matter what it is.
Yeah.
It comes on. You're
no matter how much time you've seen the hook of the beginning of the movie, the hook just keeps you there.
I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you another two songs that really get me, and like when I hear them, I'm like, right, this has got to go up. It's Still Dre and Next Episode.
Yeah.
Love the intros to those songs, man. And then it just like when it kicks in, they're great songs, man. Really great songs.
Now you're talking my language.
I was listening to someone. I always thought that the intros for songs back in the day always tended to be better. And then for some reason, I was listening to a 90s playlist the other day.
Yeah.
It was a 90s R&B playlist more so than anything. It was just a different playlist, something different to listen to. And then all of a sudden, TLC, No Scrubs came on, and I was just like, 2 notes in, you're like, know what that song is? And then there was loads. There was a Craig David song in there, seeing as Nick Mullis has decided to bring that up today.
What is Nick Mullis talking about?
I don't know. What is he getting at?
Is this Donovan and Craig David present? Oh, because of your headphones, I think.
Oh, maybe.
You got a bit of the beard thing going on.
I've got a kestrel as well sitting on the chair behind me.
Cares.
Yeah. But no, I always was under the impression. But I think I actually went back and listened to. I was listening to this playlist, and I was like, literally 90s music. There are some pretty iconic intros, and I don't think I ever gave the 90s enough credit
Yeah.
for intros. Because back in the day, the intros used to be huge. They were like 5 minutes long before the song started.
Yeah.
I was listening to a disco playlist today, and all the intros to those disco songs were fantastic. Every single one of them. Every song was 7-8 minutes long. I couldn't actually believe how long the songs were. Never realized.
Well, they were meant to be played in discos. You know, so it kind of doesn't matter how long the song is. When it kicks in, you just keep it going.
Yeah,
you mean until people pass out.
DJs must have loved it though, because every song was the same tempo. So like mixing must have been a doddle. The disco stuff.
But it turned into house, didn't it? So it's the same ease.
Yeah.
On what kind? But yeah, well,
they were great intros. Well done. That was some good ones thrown in there to the mix. I like that.
Cheers, man.
It's good when we actually give people some notice on that question. We have had
we've thrown it on a couple of people, haven't we?
Yeah.
You say that though. Sometimes it's good, like just having to think fast, and because sometimes if you think about it too much, you start going, actually.
You go back and forth, and then you put one away, and then you take another one out, and you go, actually, no,
Because when you put on the spotlight, you just have to go with the one that's in your head, and that's obviously the one that sort of sticks in your head more. Like it wasn't until I just started thinking about it, and then I thought of like Still Dre and stuff like that, But
there's hundreds and really.
So many.
I think for me personally, if you don't like hip hop, you're not going to agree with me, obviously. But I think hip hop's quite good, especially 90s hip hop was quite good at intros.
Oh yeah,
man, you either had like the talking at the beginning of it to kind of set the mood of the song, or you had like, I don't know, Snoop Dogg. Everyone knows what's coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was actually
great album. That's a great album. That is.
Yeah.
I think he said they used to sample some of the older tracks as well. So you'd be like, I know this, and then next thing you know, it's gone into like a hip hop track. You're like, it's not that. Well,
when it all comes from the jazz funk thing, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Taking samples from jazz funk,
and the
genre I enjoy.
Tupac changes.
Yeah,
instantly. That's another one. As soon as that one comes on. So anyway, awesome intros.
You're gonna spend the whole 45 minutes just talking about intro. Anyway, Alex.
Still trying to avoid my original question.
Yeah, no more stalling. Answer the question, Alex.
What?
I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember what it was.
I was sort of saying, because I listen. Let me go, because I'm brand new to your music, right? I listen.
Soften the question. Soften it.
Right, and this isn't a genre I'm any kind of expert on by any stretch. Donovan will know that. But there was hints of, because there's some orchestral elements that I was hearing, which kind of reminded me of like what Oasis did with that kind of vibe. Back then, they always used a lot of orchestral sound. The only thing I'd say with your, the only thing I noticed with your stuff though is it just seemed a bit punchier. Is that making sense? So like it's got a bit more of a, like I think a lot of Oasis kind of stuff and all of those kind of bands back then were they've almost got like a bit of a lazy kind of feel to them. Whereas yours started a tiny little bit more like it got a bit more of a pop influence in there. Like in terms of the beat, and I'm normally drawn to the beat more so than like most things, which is evident in the kind of music I make. So, but how would you describe it? What's your?
I think because I've got I love lots of different genres. Like I think first and foremost I'm into my guitar music and things like that.
Good.
But then I love like dance. I love hip hop. But I think Uncle is probably like a good sort of basis as to like when I first heard science fiction. That sort of I listened to that and I thought, okay, this is like piqued my interest here, because it's sort of, it had classical music, it had hip hop, it had guitar music.
DJ Shadow in it.
Yeah, James Lavelle, DJ Shadow, and it sort of combined everything, and that's sort of what I wanted to do. But I mean, I've sort of got parts of that in some of my songs, like Every Ocean. It's probably along that sort of line, like the dance. It's almost got like a sort of drum and bass beat with strings over the top and a bit of guitar. But then I've got the more traditional sort of, like you say, sort of indie sound. I think like bands like Arcade Fire have sort of like come into like my sort of interest, and like that's where the punchiness comes from, I think, and having that
maybe so,
sort of like, they're like sort of the drive behind it rather than the sort of chilled sort of like, you know, all around the world, you know, that sort of Oasis thing, like, because what I never wanted to do was just like rip off another band, really.
No, but we've discussed this before, haven't we? Don't like about influenced and ripped off, and I think with your sound, you could certainly hear several different types of sounds within the one structure of a song. And we discussed that before, whether something is just like ripped off or whether something is just,
well, that was one of the topics.
It's almost impossible now in 2021 to be original. It's insanely difficult. So what you have to do is
I don't agree with that.
Well, you have to kind of, but to be original now, what you're kind of doing, it's like an invention. You know, you get one piece of technology and you take another piece of tech. Like you take the iPod and you take the telephone, you put them together. You got the modern day mobile phone. You just got a new version. You got a new,
no, I agree. I agree.
You've took the best bits of two different things and slammed them together and created something new. So it is original, but it was using components that were already there. So there's only so many chord progressions you can use, and there's only so many notes.
Exactly. I think it's almost impossible not to derive.
Yes.
From other things.
Yeah.
But what I like about you, Al, is you wear your influences on your sleeve. However, you create something that is fresh and it sounds fresh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't sound like a throwback to anything. But the influences are there, and that's quite difficult to do. And I don't think you can do it purposefully. Does that make sense? I think it comes from someone's personality. If you're going to say, this is what I love, this is what I love, this is what I love, I want to kind of take the influences from it, but I want it to sound fresh. If you overthink that process and not just write a song, you're gonna hear it. It's got to be a natural thing, so it's got to be there naturally, and that's what's good. You know?
Yeah, I think, like you say, I think if you try too hard to be something that you're not exactly, and you can't really pull it off as well, people see through that, and you struggle, like, you know, and it's not comfortable. So I think, like you say, you just got to sort of take those influences and sort of come to something that you're comfortable with doing. If it's like sort of being able to reach it vocally or play it on a guitar and things like that. And when you're comfortable with it, that's
when you enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
well, I'm a producer and songwriter. I run a small record label, so I have my own ways of. Everyone's got their own ways of writing, but I'm always interested to hear whether do you consider yourself a writer first, like a singer first, or a musician first, and how does your music come about? Which one comes more naturally to you when you start a song?
Again, I think that changes day by day. I mean, some days lyrics will come into my head, so I just note them down. Other days I like have a little bass riff, so I'll try or guitar riff of some kind, and I'll try and get that down, and then I'll put the lyrics to it afterwards. Sometimes you get like an idea for, like, I don't know. I think sometimes, like, if I watch films, and that puts you in some kind of mood of like, actually, like, you know, I quite like this, and like you sort of puts you in a sort of frame of mind of what sort of song you'd like to write.
Yes.
Because I always think like songs should be like a soundtrack to your life. So, like, you know, like if you're recording an album, it would be nice to sort of have every track upbeat, but I think it should sort of reflect some kind of story about
life, though, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it should have sort of like a bit of a, you know, peaks and, you know, troughs sort of thing. You know, So so that's what I try and do. Songwriting now, I mean, it differs.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, and some songs come more naturally than others, you know. But what I've tried to stop doing is forcing a song. So originally, I'd sort of think, right, I've got this song and I've got to do it before I move on to another one. But now, sometimes I'll have a song.
Park it a bit.
I'll get like, you know, the first two verses and a chorus, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm a bit stuck, and then rather than push it, I'll just park it and then go back to it. And I think I found that's a better way. And, like, you know, before, when I've done songs and I've rushed them, and I've recorded them and things, and I listen back and think, could be done better, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of the greats do that because you don't waste any ideas.
Yeah.
But you don't over egg the pudding on the idea either. If you're out of ideas for that thing, just leave it. Do you mean?
Yeah.
Just leave it and come back to it with fresh eyes or with fresh experience or whatever it might be.
Because it's not like other ideas aren't going to come along for you to work on in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll tell you what I've become terrible for doing though, because I always start with the music, like literally always.
Okay.
You never just write lyrics first, no?
Never have done. No, I sometimes get like a phrase in my head, and that'll give me an idea of the vibe of the music I want to go for. But because I now spend most of my time writing for other people as opposed to myself, I always start with the music. I'll start playing with the music, and literally, if I can't be coming up with something lyrically to it as I'm actually recording the music and like putting it down. So I literally will write the song now as I'm making the music. So I'll just be like, well, what fits in there? What fits in there? And then if I don't like whatever I've come up with, I could be at it for like 2 hours. I'll just delete the lot. And then I just go start.
Why are you deleting it?
I don't know. I've just started doing it in like the last few months. And
is that your like kind of lovey? No, it's terrible. Get rid of it. No, I don't want to see it ever again.
It's my new. It's my equivalent now.
Delete it.
It's my equivalent now to. It's my equivalent now to doing this back in the day.
Yeah, that is very lovely. That is, yeah. It's terrible. Get rid of it. Rip into 1,000 pieces.
Don't know why I do it, but yeah. Songwriting can be really frustrating as well, though, kind of, because sometimes, I mean, you can literally write an album in like 2 days, and then other times you can just go like months without coming up with anything decent. It can be a really frustrating process as well.
Yeah, I think it's that thing, like they say, writer's block, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why do you think about writer's block?
Never mind trying to write a song. I couldn't even attempt writing a book. I don't think my attention span holds that.
Let's not talk about it.
I don't know how you do that. It's impressive. That is.
Well, I clearly can't do it anymore. But that's a conversation for a private conversation.
Yeah. What
Parky?
You say you said that you said that obviously you guitar led music first and foremost. So who was you listening to that sent you down the guitar route? What was?
Well, I mean, when we're sort of teenagers going into like early 20s and things like that, a lot of bands like the Verve and things around, it was very heavy populated, like with guitar bands. I was a big Verve fan. I got into Radiohead quite a bit later, actually, but then I think early 20s, I think I love like A Northern Soul by the Verve and Badly Drawn Boys Out of the Bewilderbeast.
That's a great album.
That was probably it's one of my favourite albums, and I just remember like being a bit like feeling a bit like lost, and like in terms of like I went to uni, and just because I didn't really know what to do, and I just remember like walking around Wolverhampton like with this sort of, I think it was like a CD, and like in my headphones, and just I don't know, it sort of took you to another place. Really, it's quite cinematic in terms of like. It was quite sort of. It was like it wasn't overproduced. It was quite ragged in places, and I love that. It was quite raw and bare. Like I mean, you had like nice things like and just like little interludes of like musicals and stuff. And it was brass, and then some songs you'd have like glockenspiels and stuff. And I was just like, this is great, man. It's cool.
And is that what gave you the catalyst?
Yeah, I think like those two albums were like probably big keys for me, like really. And a band called Gomez, actually. I remember.
Oh, Gomez!
I remember just like coming across those accidentally, because normally like you'd sort of be hanging around with friends who'd be saying like, "Oh, check this band out," and I just remember sitting down with my aunties, I think, and we had MTV on, and I was having my like dinner, and then this band came on, and I thought, they're wicked, man. And then from then I bought their album. And
was it Liquid Skin?
Bring It On, the first album.
Oh, Bring It On, okay.
Yeah,
Liquid Skin got me. That's the one that got me.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a good album as well. But I think it's probably Gomez were probably the band that really made me like enjoy sort of like experimented a bit more and a bit because like there were loads of bands like doing the indie thing, and it was like, you know, big chorus, like yeah, I don't know, but Gomez made me think like
Gomez were more interesting infinitely because they were kind of moving into different areas, and they had your two singers, and they were very distinct.
Yeah,
things,
definitely.
Obviously, everyone talks
Definitely.
about is it Ben's voice.
Ben Otwell, yeah.
That's I think that was the kind of selling point with because no one his voice didn't suit his face.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
that was just we're out of time. I don't know if anyone heard that.
What was that? Was that sounded like
a dishwasher? Yeah,
that sounded
very
like
rock
the
and
thing.
roll.
That sounded like the thing that went off in our first ever episode when we was in the kitchen and they had that alarm thing.
I think that was a dishwasher as well because we were in a
Yeah.
kitchen. Yeah. Okay, Al, can I ask you? It's very much in the same vein as the question that Steve asked.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the Lines, as you know. I followed you around to quite a few different places and had some really great nights.
We had some good nights, yeah.
Yeah, let's leave it there. We're live.
Yeah. Except for that one time when that girl asked about his age.
Yeah, well, that Al wasn't there that night. So.
I was to say, I'm not taking any part of this one.
Yeah, no, that was another episode for another time. Yeah,
that one's been done.
I did introduce you, and I think you heard me saying I think the disbanding of the Lines was pretty amicable, and you seem all to be friends. Can I ask why that happened? Why did you disband? Because I've never actually asked you that before.
I think it just, I mean, it came to sort of a bit of a natural end. I think some of the guys wanted to keep like trying, but I think like a lot of things, it just sort of comes to a bit of, you know, good things come to an end, and it had been a bit like of an excessive like few years. You know, we're working really hard. It got to a point, you know, we're sort of gigging all over the world, and then it got to a bit of a point where it felt like flogging a dead horse, like sort of is the phrase that people could use, but it didn't feel like a dead horse in terms of like we wrote some great songs, we had a second album ready to go, but it was just trying to get people interested in, and we're sort of I don't know, putting a lot of money into it, not really seeing
like
a lot work. Not really seeing it. Yeah, it was putting money into it, not seeing a lot of anything back. It felt a bit more like work. I think I just started writing some other things that didn't really fit into the Lions camp as well. In some respects, you know, like some of the other lads were sort of concentrating on their life and, you know, studying and getting
an age thing as well.
Yeah, and like, but I was like, well, okay, and then I found myself sometimes in the studio alone. And I was like, well, you know, if I'm doing it on my own, well, I might as well just do some of my own stuff. And
yeah.
And that's sort of where, you know, I love playing with the lads, you know, and they're still good friends. Well, still my best mates, really. And it was always, you know, it's always going to be hard, sort of not playing with your best mates. But it just got to a point where I just need a bit of time, like off, really, because you know it was like 10 years of gigging and. So it was nice to have a couple of years not doing a great deal, writing, recording, playing around with some new ideas and stuff like that. And then, just going on.
I think that happens a lot, though, doesn't it? You see it with big famous bands. There's usually one or two creatives within the band who are coming up with a lot of the content, and then it's usually the songwriter. And that happened to me with my band, where I was just like, this is not what I want to be writing, and there does have to come a point where, whilst you love what you were doing, and I loved the band I was in and what we was achieving, but I got to a point where I was the same as you. I was just like, well, this isn't me. Whilst it's great, people like it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to write this stuff. Like I've got all this other bookload of stuff that I've written that I want to release. But I was kind of like, well, I don't want to be releasing stuff on the side whilst being in the band. So it was like, does tear you apart a little bit because you're like, you got this group of guys that you've become quite close with over the years, and then all of a sudden you've got to go, I don't want to be part of this anymore. But the same as you, we managed to do it in quite an amicable way. But when you started writing again after leaving the band, because I took a little bit of a break myself, I didn't write anything or release anything for a little while.
Yeah.
But when I did start writing, it was the best feeling ever, because I was writing song after song after song after song that I knew I wanted to release.
Yeah. Totally.
In exactly the sound that I wanted.
Yeah.
It does feel different, doesn't it?
And I think that was another thing as well. Like, and it sounds like as though like I'm like a control freak or something, but like
you're a lead singer, of course you're a control freak.
You know, but you know when you've got an idea in your head and you know how you want a song to sound, and you've got ideas for riffs and drum beats. So like I was taking this song I had and I was taking it to other people, and then it was like, oh, I don't really know if that's how I want that. And I was like, oh, and I just wanted that control over what I had in my head. I suppose it's like, taking, like, asking, I don't know, Picasso had an idea and giving Van Gogh the paintbrush and stuff, and he wouldn't get what he wanted from that art, would he? So
no.
It was even though the person is highly skilled, it's not the interpretation that you see or hear.
Yeah. So that was part of it as well. So like you say, it was nice to sort of get the ideas down that I wanted and just play, like, manipulate the songs how I would like it, rather than, like, towards the end, sometimes you did take a song into a room and we'd just be there looking at each other sometimes like, so what do we do with it? It didn't come naturally. So
okay. Well, just I was having a look at, obviously I went on Spotify, and that's the first place I go these days to go and try and find people. Now I like Spotify for one reason and one reason only. It helps me find new artists and new bands that I've never heard of. And I said to Donovan, I do a thing now where I deliberately try to find people I've never heard of. I just scroll through and I'll click on anything and I'll just listen to it. If they've got an album, listen to the album, unless it's awful. No, but you know what I mean? I'll try and listen to as many new things as I can. And recently I've found tons and tons of new artists.
Michael Ball, he's not a new artist.
Mate, I'm all over Michael Ball's new
big
stuff.
Michael Ball fan now, as is our Steve.
I got my weekly Michael Ball update for you later. But he wrote a new song and I quite liked it. What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with that at all.
Right,
so nothing against Michael Ball at all. He's a furry, teddy beary, lovely bloke.
Do you know who I'm absolutely addicted to at the moment? In fact, my entire household is the Icelandic guy, Daddy Fear from Eurovision.
From Eurovision, yeah.
Go watch. Forget the songs that he's done because they're fun and they're funny. Go and listen to all his other stuff. Guy's a genius. Like, his stuff's amazing. Okay. It's like
that's a bold statement.
No, he is. He's a producing genius. Like, you watch his videos, he produces everything almost live sometimes as he's doing it, and he's playing about 5 or 6 different instruments at once. I hate people like that. Like, it just pisses me right off. Just see people pick up. I'll play a bit of bass. Now I'll get the drums out. Now I'll get this synthesizer. Now I've got this weird machine that no one's ever heard of, and it's going to make strange sounds. What was it called? One of them things where you wave your hands about like this. What's all that
Theremin,
about?
Isn't it?
That's the one. But it sounded good. I quite liked it. But I like to ask every musician this: what are your thoughts on
Michael Ball
Spotify? Good or bad?
For the artists,
they don't pay much.
They don't pay
anything.
They don't really. I mean, they don't. But then sometimes you take CDs and things to gigs and people don't buy them. So it's a bit of a
no.
Catch 22. I mean, it's good in ways of, like, you can get your music out there. I mean, if you're a hard-working band, you could probably get your music out there in other ways. But other ways, I don't know. Everywhere seems to get you somehow now. Like, I mean, at Facebook, you want to put your music out there, you think, okay, well, I could sell a CD and reach loads of people there, but they've got algorithms and which stops people from seeing, your posts. So only, like, sort of a percentage of your fans see it. So So then you have to pay for that to get out there. You know, we haven't made tons of money, but we've made money on Spotify, which does help cover costs of things like, you know, mastering a track or getting some CDs made and things like that.
Yeah.
If you can get onto playlists and get decent players, then it's money. It's money coming in that you wouldn't have. You know, you wouldn't have otherwise. So,
yeah.
while some people say, like, you know, it's not great, you could, you know, if you want to do CDs and vinyl, etc., you can do that as well.
Yeah. I just find it interesting to ask because I hear a lot of people complain about it, but then I have when I was really pushing my music a couple of years ago, I had a year where I got just over 1 million streams, and I was buzzing about it. I made no money though because I spent I spent £2,000 promoting it. I made about £4,000 back from Spotify, so I made £2,000. I mean, it's okay, £2,000's £2,000, but for over 1 million streams, you're talking like that. It's just a tiny amount of money for all the work that's gone into it. But
definitely.
I wasn't bothered about that. What I was buzzing about, and this is the thing I think people miss with it, is people all over the world, mostly in the States, somewhere, and this is what I love, and I don't know if you feel the same. Well, you must feel the same, but someone driving around in a car in downtown Texas or Nashville somewhere, because that's where most of my listeners were.
Well, you're a countryman, aren't you, sir?
Someone was listening to my music.
Yeah, definitely.
That far away, and I
awesome.
fucking love that. I think it's the best thing ever. So I don't like the guy and how he set it up and the way he's doing, you know.
Yeah. I think you're right. I do love
is good
like
for that.
Yeah, I do
Reach,
love
isn't
that.
it? Reach.
I do love the fact that anybody can just, if somebody sends a link or something, somebody just can click on it or share it, and that's your music. And it's also there for like forever, you know, unless it changes. You know, you got like people in your family that can listen to that in years to come and sort of be like, you know, I know them. People will argue it forever, but what you're going to do about it? It's there now. It's a force, isn't it?
Well, the old day, the only way to get your music out to the masses to have thousands and millions of copies of the CD made and then distribute it all over the world. So there was no other way. So when people talk about the good old days, I just always kind of wonder which good old days were they talking about?
Yeah.
You know, the ones where you needed a gigantic machine behind you to get your music out to the masses.
Yeah.
Those good old days. So I think it's quite good, and I like the fact that now Donovan can recommend someone to me, like yourself,
definitely.
and I can jump on your playlist. I've got your, is it an EP? It's an EP or something. I've just saved it, so I have a proper listen to it. But I just I like the fact that people can do that. Listen to this band, they're great, and then they can shove it on Spotify and on Facebook and Instagram. It's great. I like that.
Yeah, likewise, same here. And I think it's another outlet. Like people say, you won't make loads of money, but you know, you make something off it. For really, you don't pay a lot into it, really. You know what I mean?
And it's low risk, low investment, low risk, but low return. But
if you do fall lucky and get plays, and you can make some money. It sort of allows people to do the DIY thing, you know, and spread your name, like you say, quite easily. There's a lot more people doing that now.
Well, you've played with some great bands, so, and you know, you've done a lot of touring from what you've just said. So how's the last 12 months? Well, 18 months nearly, isn't it? So like, how's that been for you personally?
At first I thought it was great. Because with that,
you heard it here first. The pandemic is great, says Alex Ohm.
Bring on the second one. Lock it down again. Come on. Now, like at first, because like I work as well in the daytime. So like I was that busy. Like we were like sort of gearing up. We were doing a release. We'd played some shows. We got a little tour booked in and stuff like that. And I was like sort of working and also playing covers gigs to earn extra money. And I was just flat out. So I didn't have any weekends or anything free to myself. So when it first kicked in, I thought, oh, it's like a bit of like just a calm. But then after a while, I was like, nah, this is no good. Like, because I think because there was literally nothing happening, like you lost inspiration. Like what I didn't want to do is just sit there writing songs about the pandemic and being like locked down.
Yeah, because that's all anyone was talking about. That's all that was on telly. And
the
first lockdown was genuinely a lockdown. It was dead.
definitely.
There was no cars on the street. There was no. It was the strangest time I've ever seen.
It was very strange.
I went TikTok crazy. Remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah,
it was awful. It was a terrible time in my life. It was an awful time.
It was funny though. It was.
So yeah, I don't know. The first bit was like it was quite so welcome, but then I started writing quite a bit, and then I got really bored and was just looking forward to. I think I joined the sort of mobile phone gig sort of gang, and that got a bit boring quite quick because it wasn't the same really.
It's not the same, is it? No, it's not.
Nowhere. It doesn't come close really.
People did what they could.
Yeah, I think as a player and as like an audience, like you just don't get the same from either end really. But it's been so like we've played 2 shows in the last week, and it's been such a relief to get back out there. And
I think when it kind of locked down in the March, towards the end of the March, I think a lot of people were like, okay, well, yeah, we can do this. It's a nice reset. I can think about things, and I can spend time with my family there at home and blah blah, which was cool. But I think by the time we got to May, and that's when it was like, that's when it started to get really grueling, and that's when Steve went TikTok crazy, and that's when you knew that things were going wrong.
Hang on, all right, we've got a viewer question. Nick, who's a regular viewer of
he's like Champion Dweller,
yeah. He sent a rather strange question in. I'll let you read it. Let's have a look at this. So, if you could go back to Victorian times, what song would you perform and pass off as your own creation?
That's an amazing question. Go.
Oh man. Oh god, I'm trying to think of all the Victorian classics.
I think he means. I think no. I think he means which song from present day
would you bring?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Pass off as your own.
Okay.
It'd have to be something with a fiddle, wouldn't it?
That's a good question, man.
It's an amazing question.
Gangnam Style.
Sit here now.
Imagine trying to explain Gangnam Style in like the Victorian times. You could put like a Cockney twist on it, couldn't it? Like,
how about something like "Smack My Bitch Up"? What do you mean? Like, just liven them up a bit.
Yeah, but they'd all be doing it in the crowd, wouldn't they? Back then, they'd just they'd take it as an instruction.
I guess that was more allowed, isn't it? Let's not go there. Let's move on. I think Bohemian Rhapsody, but
I think that'd just weird them out. I think they'd all just be confused. I think people were confused when they heard it for the first time over here, like even more so back then. I think they'd probably stick him up on like some kind of witch hunt kind of vibe. They'd be going for him, stick him on a thing and burn him. But then again, there was people. But then again, there was people in America.
Of the corner. I think there was people on a thing.
Yeah, there were people in America trying to do that in the 70s anyway.
Go on, Al. Come on. Answer the question.
Yeah, let's try it. Let's do it.
You're being interviewed. So,
come on, Donovan. I want your answer on this.
No. Al first, and I'll go.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I'm just trying to think of like songs that. Where'd you start with that?
Everything is going to shock them, isn't it, Jimmy? Because you've got pianos, you've got harpsichords, you haven't got electric guitars, so obviously anything with electric guitar is going to scare the crap out of everyone.
Yeah,
but you just got to take that risk, haven't you?
You can't go in there with heavy metal.
No. You could have, you could do like Blur Country House, and that'd sort of fit like. Because, like, you know, in the squalors, you'd be in the city and like lives in a house, a very big house in the country.
Yeah,
still do that. Like, it still fits, like, you know, thinking about the big lords and stuff like that. I don't know.
Do you know a band called The Quill?
Who? Sorry,
Quill.
The Quill. Yeah, do you know the band The Quill? You could do anything. You could do anything by them, couldn't you? I reckon you'd get away with like their music. That'd be all right.
I just go.
I don't think you'd have much of it wouldn't have much of a shock factor, though. I don't think.
I just listen to Radiohead or something like that.
I think Bulletproof by Radiohead is just a clean acoustic.
Yeah.
and it just bum everyone out. That's Radiohead do best. You can get bummed out in any era.
I would do anything by Busta Rhymes.
Imagine still doing like Still Dre.
Just a million words a second.
That is a good question. That is a really
hold
good
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't answer. It can't be answered in a serious way, but it's a really good question. I loved it.
That's a great. I think that's a question. That's one we're gonna have to put up on as a poll. I think, Nick, you're gonna have to get that up on the group and put it up as a poll.
Yeah, agreed. It's a good one. That is.
So what's next, Alex? What's happening next? Like we've got lockdown kind of hopefully out the way now. So what are you planning? What are your plans for the foreseeable future?
So we've got quite a lot of gigs booked in over the next like few months, and fingers crossed they'll be able to go ahead, all being well. We're just putting a single out in June, followed by some other singles that will lead up to an album, all being well, which probably be next year now. The original idea was to do an EP at the end of the year, but we got to the point of thinking like, should have put an album out probably years ago now, really, a couple of years ago or something. We've got enough songs, got a consistent band now, because over a few years we sort of like swapped and changed, people came and went, but now we've got like a good group of players that I love like sort of working with and writing with. So I think now the next thing will be is to get an album and get that out there.
So it's just under Alex Ohm? There isn't an Alex Ohm and it's just I
mean, it's something that I spoke to the guys about when we first started, and I said, look, like, obviously you're an integral part to what I do. Do you want to go under a band name? And they were like, well, you've built the name up as Alex Ohm, let's just keep it as that. I would like to sort of do something Alex Ohm or just change the name to because I love like what Justin Vernon does with Bon Iver. It's technically his project, but he's got a massive like sort of musicians with him. Smack one's bitch up. That's the one.
You do realise, Nick, that not everyone was an aristocrat in Victorian times, so they would not always say smack one's bitch up. Oh, bless him. Fantastic.
Can I just say something that I don't know, this might be something you decide to do, I don't know, but I was speaking with somebody who's a top leading music marketing guy. I did some work with him recently. He's had an interesting thing that quite a few bands are now doing, apparently, the ones that he manages, where he's releasing albums and he's releasing EPs, but today's market, because of Spotify, TikTok and all the rest of it, has very much become all about a singles market. So what they've done, and I thought it was really clever, and it's something I'm toying with the idea of doing myself, was they've started releasing an EP on Spotify, Apple Music and all the 5 tracks, but then there's a 12-track album that comes with it at the same time. It's released at the same time. So you give them a snippet of the album, you give them the 5 songs for free on all your platforms. And then through, I think, Bandcamp and CDs and various different things, because you can sell CDs and vinyls on a multi-print thing through Bandcamp now, which is pretty cool. They then offer the full 12-track version of the album, but the only way you can get that is to pay for it. Now, what's interesting is he's been doing the viewer, the person listening, gets to choose. They have to pay a minimum of £1, but they get to choose the price. And what's been funny is, and we tried this ourselves with one of our artists recently, and it worked so well. It was like bizarrely well, where people were paying far more for the EP and the album than we would have ever have sold it for.
Put it at,
it was really quite a strange
we've talked about
experience.
this, haven't we? We talked about this, Steve. Radiohead did it in 2007.
So it was almost that exclusivity thing, though, where you've got it and no one else can get it. And people did seem quite willing to give more than we thought. So maybe the issue isn't Spotify. Maybe it's the fact that we're not giving them a paid
using
option.
It right. Yeah.
Like what we put our vinyl out on Bandcamp. Never used it before this year. It's so we set a price of the vinyl, but it was so like endearing to see how like people would pay for it, but then would pay an extra fiver, extra tenner, etc. And it's like, what? Like, I think sometimes it's like, say, like an artist, which I always feels a bit like sort of above my sort of qualification. It's amazing, like how little you value stuff sometimes.
I think everyone does it. I think
all artists of any description, not just musicians. We've got a lot of artists in the group, painters.
Yeah.
And they won't even try to sell their work because they don't think it's worth anything. But it's crazy because some of it's so good. Like you would buy it.
Oh, there's some phenomenal stuff on the corner. Absolutely phenomenal. It's just getting better as well.
yeah, it's great, isn't it? Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and it's great to see like there are some just real music fans who will sort of like pay the artist that bit more because they appreciate it and they understand how much time and effort goes into it, you know. Because
it's weird, isn't it? Because if you're cynical, you'll think, okay, well, people are going to take the Mickey, and I'm just going to get pounds and 50 pences from it. And I think when Radiohead weren't the first to do it, but when Radiohead did that within Rainbows in 2007,
that's right. Yeah.
I think that's what kind of really kicked that kind of idea off, because I think they made more from that than they did from King of Limbs, didn't they? Or whatever came next. And they said, you pay for it what you think it's worth, and we'll send it to you in like a hand wrapped kind of cardboard. I've got mine, like cardboard kind of like little box and everything. It's been tied up neatly and stuff. And it was a ballsy move that I think has started a bit of a movement.
Yeah, I think
but they weren't the first. But,
I think it's great. Like we had, I think it was the gig me and you went to, Don, where you actually came to watch me just do an acoustic set, didn't you, in Wolverhampton? And then and then I heard one of the bands that was on before you got there, and I really liked what they did. So I don't think I actually ever played the CD. To be honest, I've listened to the stuff on Spotify, but
this is my
I don't own a CD player. I literally don't own a CD player. So I just went to him and said, I'll have a CD because it's the only thing I could think of that I'd have, and because I'll probably wear a T-shirt. So I was just like, just give me a CD. It's small. I can take it home, and I know you've had the money. So I did that. And I did it to another band as well. And I said, right, we got a CD. And I was going to give him a tenner, regardless of what whether it was a fiver or not. And they said, we don't actually have any CDs, but you can find us on Spotify. So I said, have the tenner anyway. Hopefully it helps. They then went on they gave CDs, but they were giving them away for free, like you said, like in the plastic clear things. They were just giving them away. And they just started a tip jar. But after the same difference, isn't it? After the set. And he said they made more money in their first gig, the first gig with the tip jar than they'd ever done previously with any other gigs. They made about 150 quid, and it's like, a lot of unsigned artists don't get paid anything at all for performing.
Yeah.
So for them, it was like they were a support act. They went, look, we've got some free CDs in the tip jar over there. If you like what you heard, anything will help us. And like people were chucking 2, 3, 4 quid in there. It's like, maybe artists just need to just be a bit cheeky and just start asking for money. Maybe that's our problem, like you said. Like, start valuing what we do a little bit more and just say, give a shit.
Well, there's a lot of it around. There's crowdfunding and all different things that are happening where you can bring a genuine case, and if you're bringing quality that a person likes, they will pay for it. They will.
Are you producing? Are you producing your own stuff, or are you paying to go to studio to do it? And because it's very well put together.
I demo stuff at home, and then I go to the studio and put it together there with the producer.
Yeah, because it sounds right. Because people just don't understand the costs involved there as well. I think.
It's very well produced.
Yeah.
It's a guy called Ryan in the RML Studios in Wolverhampton, by New Hampton, and I've just worked with him for years now. Done some stuff recently with Gav from Magic Gardens as well, and that sounds great. But yeah, I mean, it is one of them things that people don't see how much like sort of you pay to sort of go and get that sort of recording quality, if you know what I mean.
It's the value in it,
It is a horrible subject to talk about as an artist, money, isn't it? Because you are just doing it because you love doing it, and you would do it anyway. But I do like to ask the question because it does seem as though something has got to change. There was actually saying that the Spotify platform itself is not sustainable for much longer because they're paying out more money than they've got coming in now because there's so many songs on there.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
so this sustainability won't last. And like Netflix, are having the same thing where they literally aren't making any money.
Is that why we're trying to buy the Arsenal? Just to get a bit more of an income coming in? Yeah,
probably.
Well, we're not in Europe anyway, so you've probably forgotten about that now. Forget that.
But don't forget the owners of the companies are making lots of money, but the companies themselves are not making all that much money because the revenue they got coming in is going straight back out on payments. And Netflix, I think, for the amount of subscribers they have, when you consider how much they spend on the production quality of a lot of their shows.
That's the thing. Fair play to them, though. I mean, they are using and going over on quality.
They're like the lady.
It's refreshing, you know.
What do you think to Lady Gaga doing the same thing? Because she apparently makes no money on her tours because she spends so much money on the production.
Yeah,
I think that's nonsense, personally.
Do you believe that's true or not?
Yeah, the thing is though, she probably doesn't need to make any money. She probably makes money everywhere else, and she's like, well, I don't need to make money on this. I can make it a show. You know, she's not struggling, is she? Really?
I can't imagine her managers and record label are too happy about it.
Well, yeah, they're probably the people that are getting paid before her, like she does anyway. Like, so I don't know.
Would you ever want to be signed? Is that something you aspire to do, or do you think the indie way of doing it is probably more for you?
If you could get a good deal, it'd be nice to get signed. But I think now, especially for like an up and coming artist, like it's a hard thing to do really, because I think you can sign to a label, but really sometimes you don't get paid anything from that label until like maybe second, third album after they've like got all their costs covered. And there's a lot of things now that they do like a 360 deal, so they take all the money off you pretty much, and then you're sort of just struggling. It's just
it seems even worse. Almost it's like you're getting into debt for it then.
Yeah, definitely.
So, can I ask? I always remember speaking to you guys and hearing and going to see at the same kind of time as editors.
Yeah.
What was there some kind of connection between the two bands? I can't really remember exactly what it was.
We played the Flapper and Firkin the night that editors got signed. So we headlined it. They supported us, and they were called Snowfield or something like that. And then they got signed, and then they changed the name to Editors, and then the rest was history. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Fine.
I'll just say that they support, because that was it. I forgot they actually supported you, didn't they? Any bitterness there, or that's just the way it is?
I mean, to be fair, like gigs, lineups, and things like that, it's just a bit of a
lottery.
Yeah, lottery, and I think like they asked to go on second or something, so they could have headlined it, I guess. I mean, when they got signed, we hadn't been together very long. So yeah, and like now, nothing that doesn't bother me, like personally.
Do you know that's funny? That is, you say they asked to go on second, because at the band I was in, we always used to ask to go on second. If there was 3 bands on, we'd never want to go on first, and we never wanted a headline ever, because you'd either have not enough people come through the door at the beginning, or a lot of people leave towards the end. The middle was when everyone was there. It was
that is exactly what we used to love doing. And like, obviously, if you got one like the crowd from both bands, they're sort of like sandwiched there, and you get both of them, hopefully.
Yeah, captive audience kind of thing with them in the middle, because
definitely.
Until they hear your voice for the first time, and then they all decided, fag, do you want a fag? Yeah, let's go get a fag. Nothing more disheartening than watching a room empty, is there?
Oh God, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
I always remember doing the covers, because I used to do a lot of covers gigs. And I had this one venue where the bloke turned up. He should have had a set list sent to him by my manager at the time. And I get there, mate, I swear to God, coffin dodgers was not the word for these people. I'm not disrespecting old people by any stretch, but my God, they were a bad. Like, if I cranked it up higher than 3, someone was gonna die. And and they and the guys said, "So what kind of stuff do you do?" Obviously, they typically just want to hear Motown. They want to hear, all that same kind of stuff over and over. Frank Sinatra. And I was like, "Oh, I only do rock." This guy's face just dropped. He was just like, "Oh no, oh no, oh no." He said, "No, no." He says, well, can you do it acoustically?" I said, "Well, I could, but I've not bought my acoustic today because that's not what I've been booked for." And he was like, "Oh no, like they're gonna hate it. They're gonna hate it." And I'm just like,
"Well, yeah, thanks for the pep talk.
This is the worst thing ever."
But I feel really confident now.
but then this was the one occasion where the guy just got his own audience completely wrong because some crazy 80-odd-year-old woman heard a bit of Billy Idol in the first 3 minutes, and she was straight up dragging up about half a dozen people. And I swear to God, they didn't leave the dance floor all night. Then I went to another, so I was like buzzing. I was like, okay, well, maybe everyone does like a little bit of rock and roll and stuff. Get to the next gig, youngish people in the sort of like 20s and 30s. I'm thinking this should go down okay.
I don't even know who Billy Idol is.
There's some kid, but I had some newer stuff in there as well.
Not
interested at all. Guitar, that wasn't interested at all, and it was just the worst. It was just like, shall I even bother carrying on? Or
that's the problem when you have when you do a covers gig. Not everyone is there to see you, are they? No. And they're not really invested. They don't have to be invested, do they? Because they haven't really paid to see you.
No. It's background music, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It is. I've done loads, and it's never the same as playing like around stuff like to an audience that have come to play.
It pays okay, but don't to be loved by the audience.
The anticipation though, when you're doing your own stuff, is a different experience altogether, though, isn't it? Because it's like you've got absolutely no idea. Like if it's a new crowd and you've gone to support someone in a different town for the first time, no idea how it's going to go down. And but it's a good excitement, that is, because when it comes off and it works well, it feels amazing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and like when you see the crowd warming and getting into your stuff, that's much more rewarding, I think, than playing like songs like you get like the covers and you get play Oasis, or you get the classics there, and then they're singing Wonderwall at the top of the voice, and then you play your own songs, and then it's like everyone just turns around and starts talking again. Like
they go to the bar,
yeah. But
it is a hard slug.
It is, but there's nothing more rewarding than you get to a place, and it was like when things eased off a bit last year. I had a gig in Leicester, and like you say, nobody had heard my songs really. And then like the last song, I got people sort of like singing the chorus back to me and stuff, and that was a great feeling.
And they've never heard it before. Yeah.
Exactly, and it was just
that's the feeling,
And that was great, man. Like, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Yeah, that's something that you've done.
With your sound, though, just quickly, I'm just conscious of the time, but I was just looking at with your music, because it's such a big, full sound. What's the setup on stage? Are you using a click with lots of other instruments going on in the background, or are you just playing maybe a stripped down version of it? Because I'm imagining you don't go around with an orchestra or.
I'd love to,
but on your back.
I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, it varies sometimes. So the standard setup is 2 guitars, bass, and drums, and then we play to click. And then sometimes to add that extra like layer and reality of the sound, we have like a string player. So sometimes we have violin and cello. Sometimes just violin.
Nice.
But yeah,
excuse me a moment. Sorry about this.
So just for practicality, we just take like a click track and do it that way, really. And that's great. But sometimes, like if you want that sort of bit more of a natural sound, when you got like it's real string recorded, but when you got a player playing over the top of it, just has that dimension of like extra dimension.
When's your next show, Alex? Are you able to say, or do you know?
So we're playing a week on Wednesday, the 9th of June, at the Hare and Hounds in Birmingham.
Okay.
And we're doing that, I think, as a bit of like it's a full band, but a bit of like a stripped down set, so more acoustic. But we've got a violin and cello player with us on that night. And then we've got like other shows in Birmingham, at like the Dark Horse. We've got one at the Institute, one at the Castle and Falcon as well.
Yeah,
and we've got a show at the Great there. Got loads of bits and pieces coming through.
Well, because we mostly get, we do this live because it saves us the editing afterwards.
Yeah.
which was becoming a pain for such long episodes. So
Yeah.
what we will do is we'll add some links in the description ready for when this goes out to everyone, so that they can see where your where your show is going to be, and we'll get some where they can find tickets, or if they can just turn up on the door. But yeah, just make sure you send that over to us, mate, because that's it's a pretty local gig. I'm no doubt me and Donovan might be able to make our way down there also.
What are you playing at?
Always welcome. We've got the Air and Hounds a week on Wednesday.
Cool.
That'd be cool, because I ain't seen no live music in forever.
Yeah, I'm on that.
It does feel like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So mate, it's been amazing having you on. We would continue to talk for hours on the subject of music.
We could do.
Yeah, I think my heart.
I think eventually the only people that would be enjoying it would be us three, though.
Yeah, that's all right. You never know.
All right.
That's okay.
Sodom.
But yeah, we'll get your stuff on the corner. Make sure everybody hears it. If you've got video links, mate, and YouTube videos or anything like that, just make sure you smash them all in there, because it's a pretty active group. If you've been in it longer,
well, you're already a dweller, aren't you? So.
I'm in there, mate. It's great to see, everybody sharing their
people check it out.
Creative. Yeah, definitely. It's been a pleasure to come on and speak to you guys, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, man.
We've got something as well we'd like to talk to you about, just very quickly, when we get off air. So that's something maybe potentially for the dwellers to look out for in the future, if he agrees to it. But for now, that's it. Thank you very much for joining us, and it's been awesome, mate. Thank you.
Yeah,
cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Bye. Yeah, see you soon, man.